So today we're going to be talking a little bit about slope. Slope is represented in formulas as the letter M. Slope of a line is the ratio of change in y coordinates to the corresponding change in x coordinates. So this can also be called the rate of change. The way we find slope, we have M equals the change in y coordinates, or y2 minus y1, over top of the change in x coordinates, or x2 minus x1. And we'll talk a little bit more in a minute about which one is y2 and which one is y1. And when you're on your graph, remember rise over run. The numbers on top tell you how many to go up or down, and the numbers on the bottom tell you how many to go left or right. So here's our first example here. We're going to find the slope of the line that passes through -1, 4 and 1, -2, and then we're going to graph the line. So we're going to start by plugging in our values into the slope equation from our last slide. So you see over here, since the values that were given to us second, we're going to make those the y2 and x2, and the values that were given to us first, those will be our y1 and x1. So we have -2 minus 4, it gets -6. We have 1 minus -1, or just 1 plus 1, and we get 2. When we divide those things, we get a slope of -3. If those don't divide evenly, you can just leave it as a fraction. It'll make easier for you to move up and down on your graph. So our slope is -3. We're going to graph our ordered pairs first. So we have -1, 4 and 1, -2, and then we just draw our line to connect the two. And example number 2, we're going to graph a line passing through -4, 3 when we're given the slope. So when we're just given one point, we're going to start with graphing that given point. So we're going to graph -4, -3. And our slope tells us that we're going to go, since it's positive, we're going to go up 2 and to the right 3. So remember that rise over run rule. We go up 2 and over 3, we get a point at -1, -1, and then we draw a line to connect our 2 points. Now, a family of graphs is a group of graphs that displays one or more similar characteristics. So you can have graphs with the same slope, or graphs with perpendicular slopes. Your parent graph is the simplest of the graphs in the family. So like I said, parallel lines have the same slope, and perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals of each other. Alright, so our third example here, we're going to graph the line through -1, 3 that is parallel to the line with the equation x plus 4y equals -4. So if x, we're going to first plug in 0 for our y on the left here and 0 for our x on the right, because we want to find our x-intercept and our y-intercept. So when we solve for these, we get an x-intercept of -4 and y-intercept of -1. This is where they cross the axis. So now we're going to use those intercepts to graph our original equation. So I'm going to graph a point at -4, 0, because I know that's my x-intercept, and graph a point at 0, -1, because I know that's my y-intercept. And I'm going to draw a line to connect those two. So when I look at this graph, I see that from the first dot to the second dot, it falls once and moves to the right 4 times, which means my slope is going to be -1/4. So we know our parallel line has the same slope, so we're going to have a line with a slope of -1/4, and our graph is going to start at the point -1, 3. So we're going to graph a point at -1, 3, use our slope to go down 1 and to the right 4 places to get our new point. And we draw a line to connect those two. Alright, in our last example here, we're going to graph a line through the point of -3, 1. That is perpendicular to the line with the equation 2x plus 5y equals 10. So once again, we are going to plug in, on the left here, plug in 0 for y, and on the right plug in 0 for x, because we are looking for the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So when I solve these, 5 times 0 is 0, as well as 2 times 0 is 0. When I solve those equations, I get an x-intercept of 5 and a y-intercept of 2. So I can go ahead and graph those points at 5, 0 and 0, 2. And that's my original line. And I'm looking for a line. When I look at the slope of this line, I see that it goes down 2 units and to the right 5 units. So my slope is going to be negative 2/5. All right, and here we have the same line. Now our opposite reciprocal, since it is a perpendicular line, we have to take the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite means that since it was a negative, it is now a positive. And the reciprocal means we flipped the fraction on top of itself. So instead of negative 2/5, we have a positive 5/2. So that's going to be our new slope. So we're going to start at the given point, which was negative 3, 1, and draw the graph with this slope. So I have my first point here at negative 3, 1. I'm going to go up 5 units and to the right 2 units to get my second point at negative 1, 6, and draw my line. And here are your survey questions. Be sure you answer these in your notes as well as have all the examples written. Have a nice night.